Panic has a specific frequency. It's the sound of a heartbeat thumping against ribs that suddenly feel too tight. Kaelen spent his life making others feel that rhythm. He enjoyed the hunt. He enjoyed the moment a rival realized there was nowhere left to run. He never expected to hear that frequency in his own ears. He had 58 minutes. I told him that. But Kaelen was always bad at math when it came to his own mortality. He spent 40 of those minutes trying to find a glitch in the ledger I left behind. He spent 10 minutes trying to call men who had already been paid to forget his name. And the last 8? He spent those running. He went to Alara, of course he did. Men like Kaelen always run to the thing they think they own when they lose the thing they actually need. He thought Alara was his sanctuary. He thought her warmth would shield him from the cold I left in his bones. He didn't realize that. Alara's warmth was just the glow of a fuse that had already been lit. When he burst into her apartment and found it empty, save for that single white, Moretti rose. The silence finally broke him. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He hadn't just lost a wife. He had been invited to his own execution. Kaelen didn't have many options left, but he had a gun and a shred of delusion. He tracked the black sedan to the Velvet Cellar, a jazz club that sat on the invisible border between his dying territory and the Moretti's rising sun. He walked inside, the cloying scent of Alara's perfume still clinging to his jacket like a ghost. The club was nearly empty. The band was packing up, leaving only the low, mournful hum of a bass guitar vibrating in the floorboards. In the furthest booth, framed by a single amber spotlight, sat the silhouette of the woman he had discarded. I didn't look up when the door slammed against the wall. I didn't look up when I heard his ragged, desperate breathing. I simply swirled the ice in my glass and waited for him to reach the table. "Vespera!" he hissed, his voice a jagged edge of rage and exhaustion. He slammed his palms onto the table, leaning into my space. "You think you're clever? You think the Morettis will protect you once they have what they want? You're a traitor, and in this world, traitors don't get to grow old." I finally looked at him. I didn't see the man I had married. I saw a hollow shell, a king whose crown had turned to ash. "Sit down, Kaelen," I said. My voice barely a whisper, yet it cut through his anger like a razor. "You're making a scene, and you no longer have the reputation to back it up." From the shadows behind me, a match flared. The light revealed Dante Moretti. He didn't say a word. He simply exhaled a cloud of smoke and rested a heavy hand on the back of my chair. It wasn't a gesture of possession. It was a gesture of reinforcement. Kaelen recoiled, his eyes darting between us. "How long?" he breathed. "How long have you been planning to gut me?" "I didn't gut you, Kaelen," I replied, setting my glass down with a soft clink. "I just stepped out of the way. You did the rest yourself the moment you thought I was small enough to be replaced." "How long?" Kaelen repeated, his voice cracking as he looked at Dante. He was looking for a spark of brotherhood, a shred of the honorable treaty they had signed years ago. Dante didn't smile. He just leaned forward, the amber light catching the sharp lines of his face. "Kaelen, you've been a dead man. Walking since the day you started skimming from the Moretti. Shipping lanes. You thought Vespera didn't notice the discrepancy in the numbers? She noticed. She's the one who balanced the books, so I wouldn't have to kill you 3 years ago. You didn't marry a wife. You married a shield. And then you threw the shield away." Kaelen's gaze snapped back to mine. He looked small. For the first time, he looked exactly like the man he was without the syndicate to back him up. A gambler who had finally run out of chips. "Ilara?" Kaelen whispered. "The baby. Was any of it real?" A door at the back of the club opened. Ilara stepped out, but she wasn't wearing the floral, soft silks Kaelen had bought her. She was in a sharp, tailored black suit, her hair pulled back in a severe professional knot. She looked at him with a cold, clinical detachment that mirrored my own. "There is no baby, Kaelen," she said, her voice devoid of the warmth he had bragged about. "There was only a vacancy in your organization and a need for a distraction. You were so busy looking at me that you never noticed Vespera moving the assets. You were so busy wanting soft that you forgot that soft things die in this city. Only the cold survives." The silence that followed was absolute. Kaelen reached for the weapon tucked into his waistband. A final, reflexive act of a man who knew no other way to negotiate. But before his hand could even brush the leather, 3 red laser dots appeared on his chest, steady and unblinking. Dante didn't even move his hands from the table. "Don't, it's messy and Vespera just had the floors polished." I stood up, smoothing the silk of my dress. I reached into my clutch and pulled out a single, crumpled bus ticket and a small fold of cash, exactly $500. I set them on the table where the black ledger had sat only hours before. "The police are blocks away, Kaelen," I said, my voice steady. "They aren't coming for the dawn of the Volkov syndicate. They're coming for a man named Kaelen who just lost everything in a construction fraud case. You can stay here and wait for the handcuffs, or you can take that ticket and disappear. This is the last stipend you'll ever get from me." I walked toward the exit, my heels clicking a rhythmic final beat against the wood. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I heard the sound of the chair scraping against the floor, the sound of a man realizing he had no choice but to take the charity, of the woman he had tried to destroy. As I stepped out into the rain, the black sedan was waiting. The city looked different tonight. The neon lights seemed sharper, the air cleaner. The shadow of the Volkov name was gone, and in its place was a quiet, silver dawn. They say the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. But they're wrong. The greatest trick is being the one who keeps the devil in power, and then simply choosing to stop. I closed the car door, the heavy thud sealing the past behind me. Kaelen thought I'd beg for his love. He never realized that love was the only thing keeping him alive. Now he has his freedom. And I have the throne. In this city, every shadow has a price, and every betrayal has an expiration date. Kaelen Volkov learned the hard way that when you burn a bridge, you'd better make sure you aren't still standing on it. If you enjoyed seeing the architecture of this revenge, make sure to leave a mark. Like this video if you think Vespera made the right choice, and subscribe to Tales by Noir for your weekly dose of calculated justice. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we settle scores. I'm your host, and this has been another chapter of The Dark Side. Sleep with one eye open. We'll see you in the next shadow.